All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to I believe, the sixth edition of the ZecHub podcast. Today, we're being joined by Samara, who is a part of the Zcash Brazil community, and we're going to talk about a recent grant proposal that they had proposed to the Zcash community grants around introducing an entire team to work on Zcash grassroots development in Brazil. So we're going to dive into that today and cover a lot of different topics. First of all, Samara, thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you us for inviting us and having this opportunity to show a little bit more about our team, our group, our proposal. And so, would you like me to start right now, like with the our team? So mainly it's Michael.
Mhm.
Like he's already the ambassador of the Zcash Brazil. He worked more than 7 years in with crypto. We have Vito, he's also working as a community manager. He has a huge background already. He worked with many companies in crypto, like a Shift with DAO. We have two people that work like a Miney and Yogi, like they are designers. So all the arts, graphs, PO-ups that we put on is the graphic are the two responsible. We have Isaac, like he's the moderator of the Discord, and he is also joining in many events, like by himself or even with the group. And have me, that is I'm the public relation. My background, I'm business administration. I did a college in Canada, but also since I was 15, and it's a long time ago, I work with public. So I always been like that. So I'm in crypto 3 years, learning from Michael. I'm not a very deep expert so in developing, but I know the main topics.
Okay,
So
awesome. Well, that's great.
yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. And like a big shout out to everyone in the Zcash Brazil community, because a lot of the work that's being done around like ZecHub, like the logos and a lot of the management and everything, that's been done by members of the Brazilian community. So that is a really I've seen it firsthand, like the work that you all have been doing, and really appreciate it. I guess like the first question I want to dive into here is, why Brazil? Like, this grant is, we're trying to focus an entire organization essentially on Brazilian grassroots development. Like, why is there a good opportunity for Zcash in Brazil?
So mainly Brazil is, I believe, in 50 of crypto investors. So we are only behind the US, India, Russia, Nigeria, uh, yeah, and I think yeah. So we have 10 million users of crypto in Brazil, and we are a very huge country. And first of all, Brazilian has a lot of inflation. As a third place, we are an undeveloped country, so inflation is very hard for us. So crypto is taking a shift. Like if you will look back, 10 years ago, people would invest in dollar, like to don't get by inflation. But now this is shifting. So people are investing in other kind of to store value. So I think Zach will be it's perfect for Brazil. First, because of privacy, we are having we are trying to legalize crypto in Brazil. So why have Zach? You don't want to know that the government know how much money you have. This is the for me this is the main point. Like we can use as a store of value, and also for using as a money, using it to buy stuff. Like I used to store work in a store, and for many people that I would say you can pay in crypto, and they say, what is that? Or was, oh really? So it's or many, or they really know about crypto, or they really don't know about crypto, there is no in between. Oh, I know a little bit. So this is the the point that we want to get into, like educated people to know about Zach, how they would benefit from it, and like about all the applications they can have in Brazil.
Sorry, my mic was on mute there. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good thing, because when you look at other groups, like for example, Bankless, I went to Permissionless, which was a conference in Miami. I went in, I think, April or May, and Bankless was there. They were one of the sponsors, and they have a massive, massive Brazilian community, as does Shapeshift. So like, I would imagine, I've seen some of the conferences that you guys have been going to, and it looks like you have really good relationships with all of those organizations as well.
Yes,
So
so
yeah.
also even in the proposal, we have this, like, so like a Zcash Brazil could be the bankless BR, like for Zcash. So this is
Mhm.
something that we are looking to, like in developing it.
So how do you feel about this notion of like, oh well, the team right now is already doing these things. Like, you're already going to conferences, you're already, putting out content. I know Michael's been on the Bankless Brazilian podcast. So like, could you explain a little bit more why the Zcash community should be interested in funding like an entire team to work on this?
So what happened is like as an ambassador, like when Michael got this, like, I would say like this grant. So he was like, okay, I can do this, but I can't do by myself. So even he was sharing part of his money to grow because about the passion. Brazilian people, when they are in some topic they really want, they are passionate. Like even soccer, if you will see like when we do, like I would say like Brazilian do 100%, you know.
Hmm.
So uh, it was not even about the money. It was about like promoting something that we believe, the team believe in Zcash. So it's why we said, okay, we cannot do. I know how to do a little bit of art, but like if I have a designer, will be much more interested.
Yeah.
So it's why like we have to share because I want to say even a surgeon, like you cannot be like a heart surgeon and like you can do a little bit like an arm surgeon as well, but like if you are specialized like in something, it's different, you know. So we share the responsibilities, but with these like we are even putting some money working like just for passion, like because we really trust and believe in the project.
Yeah, and then I think another thing that I think people don't know, but like, it correct me if I'm wrong, but it would appear that there's a CBDC already being developed in Brazil, so like a central bank digital currency. So I feel like, like, there's this new system where the government might be trying to kind of impose itself a little bit more than maybe how it is in the United States. It's happening. It's bad, but like, I don't. There's no CBDC yet, right? So could you kind of describe a little bit more? Like, I'm reading in the proposal right now that there's potentially a need for privacy in Brazil. I know you touched on it earlier, but could we kind of dive deeper into why Brazilians at this moment in time need privacy within like 2023, 2024?
Yeah, for sure. So first, let's start a little bit with the why crypto was invented. Like it's like we were trying to shift from the regular money from something that we believe. So with the CDBC, the government will know about everything we have. So why the privacy is so important for us? Brazil, we have a high taxation, like, and this it's around at least 27% only in your income, only for different from the US. The taxation in Brazil, like it comes from even from the producer to the final consumer. So each place they have like, if I'm taxed, I will put it in the price of my product. So then the fabric that sell to the retail, let's say, then they will put it's different from the US that you have a final tax, like, oh, if
Hmm.
you are buying a perfume and then you have a 6.5%. No, it's like taxation through taxation through taxation. So why we need privacy? As like we don't want to be like a triple tax as we already want.
Hmm.
Also, like we don't know, like they have the power of to control our money as well, like, and even like the technology, like you can put it in the business as well, like is why we are thinking about it with is like a, it's not as bad that they are legalizing, like because if you say oh, but this is bad, like if it's not legalized, but you don't want to, they know where is your money, where your store of value.
Hmm.
It's like I think it will be important. Like the privacy is the key for Brazilians as well. Like this is why I believe will be very good for us.
Yeah, and I think that can be applicable to like a lot of different parts of the world, right? Like I think people ask me how I view Zcash, and I say like, oh, well, I view it as this money that is really useful right now because I can, like, sending a tip or sending some Zec to someone in Brazil. For me, like I've done it within like the last 2 weeks, and it's really fast. So like it takes like 10 minutes or it takes like 5 minutes or a minute, whatever. And I've seen like that be really useful. Then also the part of like you don't want like these government forces or these centralized companies always looking into your stuff to kind of know what's going on. And it's really interesting, obviously, with Brazil having that CBDC actually in test. And I believe it was the last administration that were putting that forward. And I don't know if the new administration is going to carry on with it, but it seems like there's this kind of like immediate need for like, oh yeah, this government currency that they're going to be able to shut off all the time is like coming now, so we need to have an alternative, right? So I don't know, I feel like
Yeah.
there's a massive need right now. What do you think is like the best way in your guys' experience to get this information to the Brazilian people? In the United States, it really is kind of Twitter. Like a lot of the people interested in crypto like live on Twitter. Like, so if we put out information, that's a great place to do it. What's the best way to kind of get information about Zec and Zcash in the hands of like the Brazilian people?
So I would say there is two ways, and one is for the educated people, the people that already know. I would say like Twitter, Discord. But what we were thinking about, like we are having like in the proposal, having events like online events. We have like in-person events. So even to people that don't know about crypto, we wanna put them like educated them. So mainly, I believe like for the crypto people, Discord and Twitter will be nice. But for someone that doesn't know anything about it, we can do like workshops, like we already been doing. We can do like frequent asked questions, like what is crypto? Why is this good for me? Like what is how can I use Zcash? Like what
Yeah.
is this? Imagine explaining this. For example, my father is 64, and like he doesn't know many things about technology, but like when I started working with this, he was interested in knowing about it. So even like in the media a little bit, like the mainstream, I know it's very expensive, but like for us will be maybe YouTube, like online events, like we will be promoting, and also like live in-person events, like
Do
we
you
can do
think
like
there's like,
workshop because we need.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
You can
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was going to ask
No,
more
like
about the
I think we
workshops.
can
Yeah.
promote.
Yeah, the
Yeah, so like
workshops. So tell
we
me
can
more
go
about
ahead
those.
and like yeah. So for example, like we can rent a little place and like say today will be like let's say like December 24. We will be having like a workshop about Zcash for no people that are non crypto. So like for even beginners. So then we can separate it and talk even like in my language, like different. Like when Michael will be doing a podcast, he will be much more deeper, more. So I will do like the plan, the basic, how you can use it. For example, again, my father, 64 years old, and we still have a family in Lebanon. He said, "Oh, my aunt is still in Lebanon. She need a little bit money. How can I send to her?" Oh, you told me like in 5 minutes the money will be there. Oh, how it can work. So like educating from to use the money, not only for the privacy, uh, and oh, the useful use of the money. Like you can
Hmm.
do for buying stuff, to store your money, this is like also doing workshops, doing live events, like doing podcasts, frequent asked questions that we will be having. And even like if you go to our Discord right now and you will say like, oh, okay, I was watching the podcast and I saw something, I know anything. And we always be someone there to assist you and say, okay, you want to do talking privately, and we'll be educating people as well.
I think that's a really important point that you just mentioned, that like you have family in Lebanon, right? Crypto is obviously very popular in Lebanon as well, due to a lot of like the inflation crisis there. But like you just mentioned, like that really important point, and I can attest to this because I think I sent Vito some. I think I sent Vito some Zach like a few days ago or maybe a week ago, and it took 5 minutes to get there. And I think when people like, in my experience, I've never really had to send money internationally. I did send it to Argentina a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And that process of like going to Western Union and giving them cash and having to pay like $40 in fees, like it's a really, really bad process. So when you talk to people from other parts of the world who are like actively, doing these things, sending money to different countries, it is a light bulb for them. Like your father said, like, oh, I can send this money and it'll be there in 5 minutes. Like obviously there's an exchange at the
Yeah.
end of that, trying to like exchange that money again to use it. Maybe you can use that in Lebanon or Brazil, but a lot of people exchange it for the local currency. But even that process of just getting the money there is like is really, really key for a lot of people. Tell me more about how you think people would like, what's the main use case for Zcash and Zec in Brazil? Is it storing value privately against inflation? Is it using it as payments to other parts of the world? Tell me a little bit more about how you think people in Brazil would potentially use Zcash if there was more adoption, if there was more education around it.
So first, to protect us through inflation, if you want to store value, so you want to save money, if you today nowadays, if you put your money in, we have something that's called like a saving account, and
Mm-hmm.
if you put $100 in there, the inflation, what you get from back, the inflation is more. So you actually lose money. So first of all, to store value and protect from inflation. Second of all, for privacy, you want to send money. For example, when I used to live in Canada, and I have to send money, even using TransferWise, that today is now only Wise. Even taking me one day, I have to take pictures of me, my ID, where my money come from. I can only send an amount up to a 10,000 Brazilian reais, in 1 month. So one of this. The third useful is even using as a made of a kind of payment. Nowadays we only use the cell phone and do the, oh, just tap, debit, credit is even put it in a wallet and say, okay, no, I want to pay with crypto. Even I tried to use these before, but people are not educated, or even they use the case of the guy that spent a 10 million in a pizza. They are, so mainly I think is store of value, also protecting from inflation, and even transferring money, a Brazilian. We are a country that are many people from the world, so if you go to south part, it's from more people from Europe, in north part, Holland, New Zealand, in São Paulo we have a lot of Italian people, Lebanese people, Arab in general, like Portuguese. So even we still like having people back home, I would say. So even like
Hmm.
for sending money, I believe it will be a very nice application.
Yeah, I think that's a really big point. I think people always talk about remittances being like the killer use case, and I wonder at times how many people out there are using it. But I do hear there are in other parts of the world, like I know Palestine is a really good example. I know that a lot of people are using it in Nigeria, and they're using it actively because they're like a lot of people are shut off from the banking system, so they can't even access like banks, but they have a cell phone. I know in Kenya, that's a really big thing. Like I think people in Kenya, I read a study once, like 90% of people have money on a mobile phone, but only I think 30% have a bank account or 40%. I'll fact check myself on that comment. But it's like more people even now are more, they're adept at having a mobile phone and used to having money on a phone. So this transition is really, really easy for them. And when you're dealing with really bad inflation, like the volatility, like because Zcash can go up and down, but inflation is like this thing where the money only goes down, it never comes back up, right? So
Yeah.
I think like that those are some like really really big, opportunities, and I would completely agree that I think, um I would completely agree that there's like a lot of people that would actually use this in the real world for payments, especially in places like Brazil. Tell me more about like, so you're talking about people who might not know anything about um, Zec or Zcash. They're very new to crypto. This might be their first cryptocurrency that they're interested in. What type of support and documentation do you all envision or do you all think is going to be used to help people come into this for like the first time?
So first, we will educate it then, what is this, why we can use this, but also showing that I can even show my transactions. Like I say, okay, I send these, so I know they will take a time, maybe 6 months of adoption, especially if it's as older as they get, more
Mm-hmm.
paperwork they will need it. So also we can show the paperwork, the contracts, the white papers from Zcash, and then showing this is a, because if you take a look on the mainstream, like they would say, oh, someone was arrested doing bad things with crypto. Like they will only show these mainly, oh, it was
Mm-hmm.
like $100 and now it's like a 10 cents. How I will protect it, and then I will show that it's not only about money, it's about value, what
Mm-hmm.
it's backing the Zcash. So what do you have, what is the difference between Zcash and some other cryptos? They are just in there to say we are just pumping, making money, and that's it, and then they will go down. So the privacy is one thing that it's really really important, that will back up. So the main documents that we are showing is the protection behind the blockchain, also like the privacy. And I mean, if they will need educated, like a 1 hour explanation. And I know it's not going to be like in one workshop that will say, okay, I'll be in, maybe one or two people, but more people will be interested and say where I can get more information. And then we'll be having a Brazilian hub that will be having frequent asked questions, or even if you want to talk with someone a little bit deeper, like we always be having a person as a support person to show them, trying to get them into why I do have it doing this and not using like a dollar, for example, or not Bitcoin, for example. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are really good points. How do you think, like, what's the way that you guys envision kind of tracking that data? So, is there a plan on, like, okay, we're hosting a workshop, and let's say 50 people come. How do you plan on engaging with those 50 people? And kind of managing those relationships? Is it kind of inviting them to the online forums? How do you guys envision bringing people from the entry point to being, you know, long stand like members of the community?
So even we are discussing this another day, like if we are going to do a like a event, we will be requesting to the people that download the wallet, so then will be a way even by the giveaways, and we'll be having like a form to do
Hmm.
with them, but as a privacy, I cannot tracking them if they are even in
Hmm.
doing this or not. But we can know by if they come and say, "Oh, I'm trying to learn. Like, can you help me?" Or "Oh, I'm doing this." In Brazil, as soon as we get like a confidence, when we talk with someone about and we really like it, we are more open, different like from other countries. We like getting together and to even to share and exchange stuff, so I teach
Yeah.
you something and then you teach me. Oh, I come from another background, so we do a lot of this exchange.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you think, more along the lines of like the in-person events? I know that you all have attended, I believe it was, I think, four events this year. I think you all attended four or five events in person in Brazil. Tell me
Yeah,
more
yeah.
about, yeah, tell me more about kind of the opportunity in the country. I think those events were in Rio de Janeiro or Rio de Janeiro. How do you foresee expanding in, because I believe you all are based in Rio and Sao Paulo right now. How do you
Yeah.
envision kind of going into a lot of the different states that exist in Brazil? Like, what states are you all interested in driving adoption and bringing more of a Zcash presence to?
So mainly São Paulo is the financial center. Like I would say, São Paulo is kind of New York of Brazil, and
Hmm.
Rio is, I would say, because of all the nature and so people like doing the events over there. So we are 26 states plus the plus Brasilia. So what we are trying during these events, like we are trying to doing asking questions, but not only that's not obligated, but even in in the Rio, that the one that we were, like we found people from Curitiba, we found people from Brasilia. So even those people are shifting from there. As soon as we get the community growing, we can even doing like a little bit more other in-person events on these other states, but also we can do it online. We are inviting people online events. You can you can be today I'm here in Sao Paulo and you are in the US, so this
Hmm.
is a way that we are bringing together but not being together.
Yeah, no, I would. So the idea is like we can go to these massive events because there's a lot in Brazil. There's a lot of cryptocurrency, blockchain based type events in real life, and then you can also meet people from other states and then invite them into the community where they can kind of be a part of these online communities, and you can eventually even have them build relationships in their own cities around, like, so let's say someone's from Manaus, and they come to Rio or Sao Paulo for a conference, and then you meet them and then they go back to Manaus, and you're able to, like, they can start building more relationships around Zcash in that part of Brazil. So those are really really interesting kind of ideas. Uh, how do you think about potentially working with other communities in Zcash? So we have in
So
Zcash, I would say the largest contingency is like the English speaking community. How do you all envision working with other communities around stuff?
I mean, that's very good opportunity, especially like the English community is huge. So it's good for us. We can build learning with them, but also we have the Latin community. Like we can we do in Spanish as well, like a kind of Portuguese. We would say in
Hmm.
Portuguese also a little bit, like we spend we we can do a little bit even we understand a little bit. Like of course there are some words that are different, but mainly we understand everything. So we are already working with the Latin community, talking
Hmm.
talking with them, like learning from them what they did, like what we did that they can learn, and also what they did that we can put even in our events. Like we are already doing this exchange of experience as well, and even
Hmm.
like we we can do like a big event, like like putting all the community together, like even the Venezuelan community, like in the U.S. community, like let's do a big event, like next year, like in putting like the Brazilian community, like and do it online and see how many members we are getting in it. I think it's a very huge opportunity, like
Yeah.
working together. I mean, Zcash is like a Zcash community is one, and we are kind of a little bit piece of their hobby. I would say in the end of the day, we are only one community.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that awesome there. And I think like the big thing too is there's a lot you can do. Like I did an event recently with Zcash Brazil where I spoke to um, a lot of members of the Brazilian community, and what would happen is they would submit a question, and Vito would um, I can read Portuguese, so sometimes he would have to translate it if I didn't know like a certain word, but I would read the question in Portuguese, answer in English, and then Vito or Michael would like translate the answer back. And even that experience, like it's not a bad experience, right? Like it takes what, maybe to answer a question, it takes 30 seconds to translate it. So you're only adding maybe like 2 to 3 to 4 minutes of actual time because you answer 8 to 9 questions and they translate them, and then it kind of goes really well. So I think the working with other communities, even different languages, especially like Spanish and Portuguese, like those are really kind of good opportunities to interact with other people across the world. And when you guys do these events, you do something really interesting. You mint NFTs and you do these things called POAPs. Like you have all of these different ways that like reward people. Like you guys have avatars. You in the Zcash Latam community have like these avatars you can put as your profile picture on Twitter. Like where does all this creativity of engaging with people in the community, where does all of that come from? Like how do you guys think of these different ideas to you know have someone come into the community, not just be there, but also engage with them continuously and make them feel really valued?
I mean, like when you go, like for example, a wedding, and then when it's the time to go home, like you always receive something like, "Oh, thank you for coming to my wedding," and like this is something that we wanna put, like as we are in a, let's say, a digital world, we would say like, "Okay, you did come to my event, so what I'm gonna reward you." So even for the real event that we were, so for each event we create a PO-up, so it's unique, and then you can collect them. So like I would say like, oh, I will check my PO-up, and let's say I have 10 different PO-ups. That means that I was in 10 different events. So like it's something like that is a collectible, as well as like that you are engaging in the community, like. And I think it's came a little bit from like the designers and about Michael, like they are very creative, and like and giveaway. Brazilian people love giveaways, like, and like. But one thing that I always do, like, it's free, okay, but I want to reward the ones that deserve, like the one that are
Hmm.
engaged. So I always say like, okay, I was like a 2 or 3 questions, or like you have to follow us, and then we give like some samples, giveaways, even like when we do a little bit like a airdrop, like even to, like if you really trust in what you're doing. I mean, like there is no like there is no way like you don't, okay, I will put some money and then I'll give to you like a little bit, even just you to try to use and see, oh, okay, this works. Like he sent from me, like it will takes me like 3 to 5 minutes, and I already have the money. So like showing them, like, and proving them, like the thing works, so that this you send you build rapport, like
Hmm.
then you will say like, okay, now this thing works, like. So then, okay, maybe that I will, you bring people to your team to say, okay, I want to invest a little bit of money to work it, like I
Hmm.
I think this when we give, I think we even get more back. Not I'm not saying about money, but like we bring more people, like to say like to
Hmm.
see, oh, you really trust, you know.
Yeah. No, I would agree
But
with
like
that. I think,
the team, they are very creative. Yeah.
yeah, the wedding example. Okay. I usually do clips for the podcast to like share it on like Twitter and stuff. That's the clip I'm gonna get because that was really really good. I really like the comparison of like, yeah, when you go somewhere and you get a gift for going, right? It's just something that always happens, and remembering that for like
Yeah.
these digital communities can be really really good. No, that's awesome. I guess kind of like, as you know, my final question of things that I was looking to learn more about this like grant specifically is how can, you know, other organizations in Zcash, you know, whether it be you know, the organization I work for, full time ECC, the foundation, you know, the various organizations that are working via the community grants. How can these teams and these people support you all in your efforts in driving adoption for Zcash in Brazil?
So I mean, like I think it's exchanging of knowledge and like as I said before, like I don't know much deeper content about Zcash, but I have a connection point with some people, like, and then I can educate it. Like I think we related with people that are similar to us. So like if we take someone that is very expert and put me, like someone that is very expert and knowledgeable in crypto, and put me to talk about Zcash, I think will be a failure. Why? Because we are not talking the same level. In another hand, if I put someone that knows nothing or knows a little bit and put to talk with me, and they will say, okay, we are in the same pace. So like talking together and bringing people together, and like it not making any difference, like between, like if you don't know nothing, you and you want to learn, we will be here with someone that will be available for you, and like, and the other way, like yeah, as like for example you that know a lot, and I have someone that I like need deeper something that I don't know how to, but I know how for who I can ask, and I say, okay, I
Hmm.
will put you in contact to Ian to clarify this. So like I believe in this way, like we can exchange in this way, and even like a promoting the Brazilian community, you know, like I believe like if you just like just putting the trust on us, and like we will get it done.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think like you said something really cool there is like there's probably a lot of different ways that these community like I think a lot of the Zcash community, like especially the community management of these different things is becoming newer, right? Like there's more communities now, there's more ambassadors, there's more people coming in, and there probably is a lot of different ways that we could collaborate. So I think, you know, providing, you know, opportunities for like different people to come in to, let's say, the Brazilian community or the Spanish community, or, you know, some of the communities that are based in Africa or in Asia, like there's an opportunity for us to come in and kind of work together on things that that we all have different skills for, right? Like you said, like if there's a question that you need to be answered, you can ask someone else who can come in and answer that question, and we can kind of build from there. So I think those are all great suggestions. I mean, for me personally, I read the grant. I haven't vocally supported it yet, but after posting this episode and our conversation here, I'm going to voice my support for it, my personal support for it, because I think there's a massive opportunity, like you said, within Brazil. You know, before we you know, wrap up the conversation and all that, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted, you know, to cover in this discussion?
No, the main thing like about the proposal and everything, I think we did talk is only like I just wanna tell to everybody that it's not only about the money or the grant or everything. It's just like because the Brazilian people, that this thing is passionate about the Zcash. So even like we were doing like with the money we had, we are trying our best, and I think with the investment that we can do better and better. like,
Mm-hmm.
and we can be bigger, and we can exchange with the other communities. And as I said before, like at the end of the day, doesn't matter if you are the Brazilian community, the US community, or like the Latin community, or like even the African community. By the end, we are the Zcash community, like we are
Mm-hmm.
just spreading the word in another language, but by the end we are in the same, like we are passionate about the same thing, like we believe in the same thing, you know
Yeah.
that's the main point. Like at the end doesn't matter, like
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Is there any place where people can learn more about the proposal and more about the Zcash Brazil team? Where can they go to find more information?
so yeah, so if they have any questions about, like, or they needed deeper questions, like okay, I understand, but why we are shifting from this to that, we always can reach us through Discord or Twitter, and like say if you needed the papers, like the completed papers, you don't hesitate to contact us, and like before, like supporting us, or like even like pointing some question, or even making suggestions. You say, like, maybe say, oh, Samara, you said like you would like to do some events online, but what would you like coming together and doing, like, for example, with the Latin community? I say, like, yeah, so we are always open, and I always say, I use the word reachable. Like we are
Yeah.
always easy to reach, like just talk to us. If you need like a high level information, like talk to Michael, Vito, like if you need like more simple, you can reach me, uh like say, oh, you put so many like words that I don't understand. What is that? Like I'm beginner, so don't hesitate to come to us, and talk to us. Like, and if you have any suggestions, like you say, like uh we are very open for this.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Samara, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for coming on to kind of explain the opportunity for this grant proposal. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think there were a few key points in there about how the Brazilian people could use Zcash. So I think this is really good information for the community. And then for the next time we do this, we can do this in Portuguese the next time. So I really appreciate you coming on today and having the conversation. And yeah, I'm really excited to working more with you guys and learning more about the proposal here in the future. So thanks again.
No, we thank you, and I will ask you again to do in Portuguese, even half and half, or like we say, we mix and match, like a little bit English, a little bit in Portuguese. As I said, even not only in crypto, but we are always able to learn, and like and build it together. I can teach you something, you can teach me something, and like this is something that the Brazilian community we have, like it is in our blood, like to exchange and learn together, like. And it was a
Yeah.
pleasure. I hope I could wrap it up a little bit, like even in a not a very deep level, but I think it was like a more the main points. And if you have any questions, like if any the audience have any questions, please don't hesitate in reaching us. Like and we'll be available, and you get your response. Suggestion, we are also open. Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Samara, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone listening, the information for all the links that Samara's just mentioned, where you can learn more about the grants and all of these different things, we'll include those in the show notes. So again, Samara, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone listening, we hope you have a great day.